Well, welcome once again to Why Should We Care About the Indo-Pacific? This is a very special episode of Why Should We Care? And as we are joined by the Secretary of National Defense of the Philippines, Gilbert, or as he is known here, Gibo Teodoro. Mr. Secretary, thank you so much for making time for this.
Oh, thank you, Ray, and to all the podcast viewers, pleasant day to each and every one of you.
Well, you know, we always start with our question, which is the Why Should We Care question. And since we have an international audience, why should we care about the defense of the Philippines?
The defense of the Philippines is like any sovereign country whose territory is violated. We should care because as the world grows closer, cross-regional effects are felt despite the distance between conflicts in one region. Therefore, if we are to preserve an international order, imperfect as it is, then we should care if anyone's country, no matter how small, is violated. Secondly, the Philippines and the United States are not only strategic partners, but are also long-time allies. And perhaps the design of China is to destroy or to remove allies, not only from the United States, but from amongst each other. As you know, not only the United States is allied with the Philippines in the endeavor to preserve our territorial integrity, but also a host of other countries. Japan, who's facing the same challenges as we are, and the United States should care too about Japan. South Korea, the same way. Australia and New Zealand, whose shores are increasingly being impolitely visited by Chinese Navy ships. Canada, for example, who we will be signing a visiting forces agreement with. And the European countries. The G7 has always gone to the support of the Philippines. The EU has gone to the support of the Philippines. Australia, a lot of South American countries. So I think that as speaking as a defense secretary, take away from the Shangri-La dialogue, we know the threats that are existing in the world, and we know the threat actors. We identify these threat actors, and we have to band together, not as a show of force, but I will borrow the words of our Chief of Staff of the Armed Forces, General Bronner, as a show of unity, so that it discourages bad behavior while the world grapples with other challenges such as climate change, such as increasing the level of literacy, the level of healthcare, the level of nutrition that our people need.
So when you came in as Defense Secretary this time, you've been Defense Secretary once before, it was a very different environment than before. One of the very first things you were involved in was changing the Philippines defense concept to something called the Comprehensivearchipelagic defense concept. What is that, and why did the Philippines need to do that?
All right. First, it's a deterrent defense concept. The old defense concept was a post-land invasion defense concept, and we know with the way conflicts are fought, not only war, but conflicts. It starts with information warfare, and then cyber warfare, and asymmetric and hybrid warfare comes into play. So if you have that stead and jaded defense concept, it will be too late. You won't be defending anything. Secondly, we need to be able to secure to our people the benefits of UNCLOS, particularly
the UN Convention on the Law of the Sea.
Yes, which puts in to legal form internationally the status of the Philippines as an archipelagic country. where we are 80% water and 20% terrestrial domain. So we need the contiguousness rather, of the area in order to support our people, and we have a growing population. So we have to be able to secure these areas against not only territorial incursions, but also criminal and illegal elements, drugs, illegal fishing. Thirdly, our people have a livelihood. They're fisherfolk, and they've been constantly denied the use of fishing grounds. Their fishing grounds have been environmentally damaged by the number of illegal Chinese vessels and a pseudo maritime militia, or whatever you call it. And we need to put a stop to this as much as we can. So number one, we needed to create a deterrent environment against any malign influence that could come to us. And secondly, we realize now, after several attempts at peace building, that like the Singapore model, there must be a credible deterrent force in order to ensure that diplomacy does not become appeasement. Mm. I think that's as clear a formula as we derived, and I expressed my opinions to the armed forces, and they started to work, and they came up with the archipelagic defense concept, and we make it comprehensive, so it's multi-domain, multi-threat.
And in the service of that, you are also embarked on a modernization program. And I think that we're now into Horizon 3, it's called, and there's even a Rehorizon 3. So what does that mean, and what practically can people expect to see come out of this Rehorizon?
Well, the horizons are the chains of the law, actually, that the modernization law, which needs to be changed already, has canalized us into. The modernization programs of the Philippines, once again, is an aged concept because you have to work within 15-year horizons. Oh. And as we know, with the cycle of innovation, 15 years is way, way, way too long. Mm. So when we came in and reviewed the defense concept, we saw that the modernization efforts were not attuned to a credible deterrent posture and to securing our exclusive economic zone. Mm. So we had to rehorizon it. But then again, that doesn't solve the problem. We must go for legislation allowing us more agility, more flexibility, more security, and more sustainability in our modernization efforts.
There has been a lot in the news recently about modernization, and it's gone from short to mid-range missile systems. There's been a lot of discussion about ships and even submarines. You've been out talking about airborne warning and control systems, or AWACS aircraft. And of course, multi-role fighters are the topic that keeps coming up. What are your priorities? What do you, when you look out there, what is first and foremost in your mind?
Well, there are no priorities. Basically, everything is important. Firstly, it's infrastructure. Sadly, we need to invest a lot on our own infrastructure to support modern capabilities. Secondly, we have to build strategic bases to support the archipelagic defense concept. We need to project our bases to the outer boundaries of our baselines, which is the base, rather. That's why it's called the baseline of the Philippine territory and the sovereign rights that we have. Secondly, we need connectivity, secure connectivity. Thirdly, we need domain awareness. massive domain areas. We have 2 million square kilometers of maritime area, aside from the land area. Thirdly, we need, naturally, deterrent capabilities, which are very important to us. That includes the whole package, medium-range capabilities, multi-role fighters, and the like. We need hybrid capabilities like drones and other unmanned weapon systems. Fourth, we need also cognitive tools to combat the disinformation and misinformation that principally China is putting out against us. Fifth or sixth, I forgot now, we need to retrain our people and reskill our people. Seventh, we have reviewed our force structure. And we feel that our force position, the force structure is relatively small for the capabilities that we intend to put in.
Yeah.
We only have 162,000 active duty personnel for a population of 120 million. It's very small, with 7,000 plus islands and 2 million square kilometers of maritime domain. Naturally, with submarines, I believe that there will come a time, perhaps we will be needing them, when we have to secure our supply chains and the Philippine Navy evolves into an expeditionary securing force for Philippine vessels. At the present time, I believe in the area of operations that we have in our EEZ, perhaps alternate capabilities or substitute capabilities will do. For the multi-role fighter, it is in the wish list. We are considering options, but what I said was, if you buy multi-role fighters, that is not enough. You would need AWACS capabilities and air-to-air refueling capabilities so that it becomes a full force package rather than individual items, which do not have the orchestration and the synergy needed for supportability.
When you talk about all of this new equipment, first of all, of course, that costs money. And secondly, it is very hard to absorb new capabilities that the Philippines has never had before. When you look out at that sort of suite of problems that comes with modernization, how long is it going to take to do all of this?
Well, in terms of medium-range capabilities and similar capabilities, we do have some capabilities already. We are already ready to constitute the appropriate structure on command and the force structure for it. We have already been investing into the integration capabilities for domain awareness, not only for our own forces, but for interoperability with our allies. As you know, in December, we will have a combined coordinating center coming up here. Secondly, on infrastructure, the President has already approved our strategic basing plan, and that will take some time, admittedly. Thirdly, for the MRF, we already have a lead-in fighter capability. Secondly, our fighter pilots have been participating in multilateral exercises throughout the Indo-Pacific and have been up to speed. Even our logistics, air mobility capabilities have been going up to speed for theater operations. We will have 3 C-130Js coming next year, completing our total, what you call tactical airlift capabilities to about 9 C-130s, which we have to support. And with the Philippine Navy, we will have 8 platforms, corvettes coming in. and frigates. We are also busy weaponizing the existing platforms. We will be building the naval dockyard and more Philippine Navy forward operating bases and main operating bases. For the Philippine Army, they are busy retooling on combat engineering, on specialized operations, of course, on territorial defense and internal security operations. They still do that. And both for base defense, they do have ground-based aerial defense systems too. And air defense systems, by the way, is something that we need. And we also need the precursors for sustaining our munitions use, which is a shortage throughout the world right now.
One of the systems that the Philippines has been considering is this mid-range missile system, and the particular one that's been in country recently was the Typhoon system. With it, the Americans brought it in for Balikatan, and your friends to the north had a lot to say about that, and China put out some statements about it and essentially called it disruptive and provocative. And I believe the words of the defense secretary were, "It's none of their business."
Well, definitely. I mean, who are they to say that it is provocative when they occupy a lot of territory which is not theirs? That's the prevarication, constant prevarication of China. And unfortunately, rather, it's not working anymore. I mean, the content is not appreciated by a lot of people. Recently, they even tried to censor New Zealand by not allowing the Philippine film on the West Philippine Sea to be shown. And I hope that it will be shown here in this country soon. We are appealing to all theater owners that they be patriotic and allow our people to see the film. A food delivery film.
Yes. Which actually won an award down in
Yes. Actually, that is a mark of pride of our people, and we should not shirk despite the pressure.
So, that may have been one of the more clumsy or ham-handed reactions coming from China.
Among a lot of things.
But they have been very, very busy in the cognitive space. And you mentioned cognitive warfare as being an area of concern for you. You also recently had some interactions with some people down in Singapore at the Shangri-La Dialogue, including some China Daily tabloidish reporters who basically tried to ambush both you and General Bronner in the hallway. What do you think China is trying to achieve through all of these sort of various efforts to impose themselves into the cognitive space here?
Well, I believe it wants to achieve two things. It wants to sell a story that they want peace and development, and they try to destroy those that do not agree with them. Thirdly, the propaganda really is the name of the game of any communist party and communist society, and it's both destructive and expressive for them. It's basically a clumsy ad war, so far as I'm concerned. And in order for one to craft, perhaps in this day and age, in the information age, a convincing storyline, you have to have freedom of thought and an openness, so that you realize what the tastes and preferences are in the world. And China does not do this because they risk losing control by the Communist Party over their own societies. So what happens? I repeat the term again I used. It creates a deficit of trust, actually. Mistrust. The propaganda moves of China have a sinister character to them. And I'm just telling the truth. I have to call a spade a spade. No one in the world believes the 9-dash line. No one in the world has condemned the Philippines for standing up against China. No one in the world has supported China when they do bad things in this area. On the other hand, several countries in the world have supported the Philippines and several have condemned China. Let me also give you perhaps a paradigm of what they're trying to do. For example, in Tibet, in 1950, they sent troops in there to help, ostensibly help, and now it is part of the indisputable sovereignty and jurisdiction of China. Even Xinjiang, I mean, it's the same thing. So if they're in their own backyard, they act that way, what more here?
So let's talk a little about Japan, because the evolution of the Philippine-Japan defense partnership has been really extraordinary over the last couple of years. And we've even heard a new term, the one theater concept, coming out of Japan. What has been happening with Japan, and why have you seen so much evolution in that relationship?
Well, Japan faces exactly the same threat as the Philippines does. That China is threatening their territorial sovereignty and territorial integrity and sovereignty in the same way as it does the Philippines, although, of course, because Japan is more resilient in defense terms, in self-defense terms, China cannot just do that. And Japan and the Philippines, post-World War II, have been very strong allies. Actually, a lot of the development of the Philippines came from Japanese reparations. They have been instrumental in a lot of industries in the Philippines. The car industry, for example, infrastructure, fruits, for example. And the relationship with Japan has, after World War II, has started on a very strong footing in terms of trying to rebuild the Philippine economy. It evolved into people-to-people exchanges, which are very strong. Actually, I think Filipino tourists are one of the strongest in Japan, and vice versa before. Now we now evolved into a security and defense partnership, not only bilaterally but trilaterally and quadrilaterally, because of the fact that there is only a single bad actor that we have to deter, and that is China, and that's the reality. Now. Japan, on the military end, proposes a one theater concept where there will be a convergence of capabilities, domain awareness, and interoperability. This is facilitated in the Philippines through the recent approval of the Reciprocal Access Agreement between Japan and the Philippines. On the quadrilateral side, with Australia, we have a status of visiting forces agreement, and there is a convergence through the Squad among these four countries. Now, the one theater concept is it's a military construct, and it is the operational construct by which the U.S. Indo-PACOM, Japan, the Philippines, and Australia will work together. It is not an international agreement, but an operating model for our combined forces.
Let's talk for a minute just about theory of victory. In the last couple of years, you've seen a surge of Chinese activity in the West Philippine Sea. They basically have created an exclusion zone around Scarborough Shoal. That's my term. They are very busy now down at Escoda Shoal or Sabina Shoal. They are pushing closer and closer to the Philippine coastline in their patrols. when the Philippines looks out, and clearly it's not the kind of thing where you can just turn around tomorrow. And I'm sure the Philippine people would love for the AFP to be able to go out and kick them all out. But they have a very large military base in the middle of your exclusive economic zone at Mischief Reef. When you look out and you think of how, what should things look like in 10, 20, 25 years if the Philippines is successful?
Actually, that is something that, of course, there's a goal to secure our exclusive economic zone as best as we can. However, I'm task and mission focused right now on to creating as much as possible the most potent, credible deterrent force that our resources will allow and that our alliances will accommodate. And I believe that having, to my mind, theoretically, I'll be in this position for the next 2.5 to 3 years. My task will have been completed if I will give our successors more room to maneuver towards building up a credible deterrent force, which will be, once again, multi-domain, interoperable, multi-threat, and multi-theater. So everybody's focused on that. The armed forces is focused on that. And then the calculus of victory will be up to our political leaders to determine. For me, I am a facilitator to give them a tool or an instrument of national power so that their decision matrix becomes wider.
We're talking about Scarborough Shoal. Obviously was an extremely important fishing ground for fisher folk all up and down the coastline, the zone, Zambales. And they have lost a lot of that access, right? And although China put out a very glowing report about the condition of the shoal, mostly we suspect that the shoal is in pretty bad shape.
No, that's why that's why we had a problem in the first place, because they were ravaging that shoal. They were destroying that shoal.
Well, at the same time they put out that report, they also removed all of their clam harvesters, which indicates that maybe they know there's a problem with the shoal as well. So, what are the Philippines' options going forward? As you said, it's a nation of fisherfolk. What are the Philippines' options when it comes to livelihood for fishermen who have kind of had a lot of that taken away? And then what would the AFP's role in that be?
The AFP's role there would be to support the Philippine Coast Guard and the Bureau of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources in that area. Scarborough Shoal, according to the arbitral tribunal, is a traditional fishing ground of three countries, Vietnam, China, and the Philippines, although within the exclusive economic zone of the Philippines. So China has no right to exclude anybody from there. And mind you, they have renamed all of these things into names I cannot recognize. So it's fair game if I start renaming and calling Beijing Peking, which I think was the name before. Now, I believe there are remedial measures being done by the government in order to provide livelihood to these fisherfolk. Actually, there will be an initiative, I believe, to scale them up in terms of the vessels that they use, to put refrigeration in the blast freezing capabilities through the Department of Agriculture, and to capacitate them to fish more efficiently rather than the way they are fishing now. Now, talking about Scarborough Shoal, as I said, it was a traditional fishing ground ruled by the arbitral tribunal. Now, if China were so sure about its legal position, why did they not participate in the arbitration? It would have been a chance to rule on fair grounds, one way or the other. So, you talk about options. There are a lot of options. There are legal options. There are of course, deterrent options. And maybe in the future, because it is a traditional fishing ground, and if there is some trust and confidence in the good faith of China, it is fertile ground for talks because of its character as a traditional fishing ground.
Let's get you out of here. I know you've got a busy schedule ahead of you, so I'm going to give you, as an exit question, just talk about, so we've talked about Japan, you've talked about what we call now the Squad, the US, Japan, Australia, Philippines grouping, and of course you just had a meeting with New Zealand where they are developing a reciprocal access agreement.
We already, I believe, signed it. We just need to ratify it.
So you've seen this remarkable support coming from places like NATO across. You mentioned
The
Canada
Baltic
before.
countries.
The Baltic countries. You had Lithuania here not long ago. How would you characterize what China's aggression? What role has China's aggression in the West Philippine Sea had in sort of bringing all of these countries together?
Oh, well, it was the proximate cause of this convergence. Because the whole world feels that if China can do it here, then other countries can do it in their own areas. It is not only a cry of stronger economies and stronger powers because of freedom of navigation and the rules-based international order, but also the smaller countries whose very existences are threatened through false narratives. Like China has this historic claim and other countries have the empire. So I think China's actions have been the strongest factor for convergence against it. And might I say that I sort of feel that their leadership will owe their people a big responsibility in the future for their actions, for whatever motivation, leading to the destruction and the erosion of whatever goodwill the Chinese people have in this country. 90% of our countrymen do not trust China. And it is due to the actions of symbolically one person, Xi Jinping, and his autocratic rule of a monolithic party, which Chinese people have no choice but to follow.
Well,
Ray,
go ahead.
I saw an article in South China Morning Post that Hong Kong businessmen are saying that let's get the Hong Kong brand back as Hong Kong and not China. So, I mean, if the limiting factor here, to use a management term, is China.
Well, on that note, Secretary of National Defense Gibo Teodoro, you've been very generous with your time. We're very excited about being able to put this out to the world, and I thank you for it.
Oh, thank you very much, Ray, and thank you to all the televiewers.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
And as we bring Jim Caruso into this discussion, you'll notice that I am in a different outfit, in a different location. We are now recording our post-game analysis with Jim Caruso sitting outside with the birds singing behind him. And while we're thinking about that, we'll think pleasant thoughts about our sponsor, Bauer Group Asia, a strategic advisory firm that specializes in the Indo-Pacific. Bauer Group applies unmatched expertise and dynamics to help clients navigate the world's most complex and dynamic markets. Jim Caruso, sitting amongst the birds, is a senior advisor with Bauer Group, and you can go visit them at their website at BauerGroupAsia.com.
Well, first of all, Ray, the birds are sitting amongst me. I'm not sitting amongst the birds. So let's be clear.
You got it.
Come before the birds. I'm also very impressed that when you're in Manila, you go amongst the high and mighty, the beautiful people. But I know you. So I'm trying to understand.
They clearly don't.
Well, that's the only explanation I had. So, had you met the defense minister before this?
I had, yeah. Actually, we've had conversations over the last few years in various forums, even before he became defense secretary. Um, I wouldn't. We're not friends, but I think we're acquaintances, and we approach each other from that perspective, I guess.
Okay. So it was a great conversation. What struck you as his main thrust? What was he trying to get across? Most importantly.
So he's I really the thing that came away for me, the theme I think was credible deterrent. That the Philippines really needs China and any other adversary to look at them and pause, and before they begin shoving them around and say, hey, this could cost us something, because the Philippines has sufficient means to hurt us. And right now, I think that his sense is that the Philippines isn't yet ready to present that kind of a credible deterrent.
Well, it's a tough call to have a deterrent against a country of 1.2 billion people and the largest military buildup pretty much in recent history. What does the defense minister think a deterrent looks like?
I really took two things away from the conversation. One is the Philippines needs to have its own deterrent. And that's what the whole comprehensive archipelagic defense concept strategy review is all about, right? It's saying, okay, a deterrent today cannot be the deterrent of yesterday or last century when we were worried about land invasions. Now we have to think about our maritime space. It means we have to build up something that holds another country at risk much farther away from our shores. So the Philippines' modernization, its defense buildup, which it is pursuing with as much vigor as it can, given its size and resources. The second, I think, really does come back to partners and allies, right? They have been very, very busy trying to build up a network of other countries that are giving moral and material support all across the board. I really I think that whole thing about the one theater concept with Japan and Indo-PACOM, I think really speaks to the fact that the Philippines wants to be a part of this web of countries united in protecting their sovereignty.
Well, it's interesting. We're talking about this while Secretary Hegseth and Elbridge Colby at the Pentagon are apparently asking Japan and Australia to commit to defending Taiwan if China invades. Are they making a similar commitment to defend the Philippines? Is Teodoro asking about that?
I don't think that topic has come up, and I'm not sure the Philippines is. I don't think that they're there yet, right? So I don't think that the Philippines is bold enough to sort of go and lay it out in front of other countries and say, "Are you ready to commit?" I think they would be happy if they were to commit. I don't think I'm sure they don't. Certainly not with Australia. They wouldn't suspect that the time is right for that. They may be getting closer to that with Japan. I mean, Japan definitely seems to be drawing itself very close to the Philippines. They're finalizing this reciprocal access agreement. It's done. It just needs to be ratified. And then, of course, there's now talk about Japan giving over some excess defense articles ships, essentially, to pretty substantial capital ships over to the Philippines. This is really, I think, a ball that's been rolling for a while. So Japan, I think, is a lot closer to that place than Australia is.
Well, and of course, the Philippines is a formal ally of the United States. We are presumably committed to the defense of the Philippines. And the question would be, what would trigger our acting in defense? Would it be another island building exercises in the EEZ of the Philippines? Has the defense minister asked for clarity on when we would intervene?
Yeah, this is one of those places where you're never sure whether you want to go there, right? If you do you want, how much clarity do you really want? Because you might not like the answer. sometimes it's better just kind of leave everybody guessing. And it's sort of what we've done forever with Taiwan, right? We haven't said that we will, but we've certainly implied that we very well might. That is aside from a few statements by the previous president. So yeah, I mean, I think that I'm not sure that the Philippines. I won't tell you. I won't say what happened behind closed doors because I haven't been in those meetings. But certainly out in the open, I think that would be a big step to try to sort of nail the United States down. Because again, what if the answer is not what you wanted?
Okay. Well, it's something I'm looking forward to hearing when we complete the broadcast, how it all goes. Any last words or a story behind all this?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's been a very interesting week in Manila. It was highlighted by, of course, this interview was a highlight, but also I took part in the annual recognition of the 2016 arbitral victory that the Philippines had over China, where basically the Permanent Court of Arbitration, the tribunal, overthrew the 9-dash line as in about as explicitly as you could. It was a pretty comprehensive victory, which of course China, they refused to even participate in the process and have sort of denounced ever since. But the Philippines celebrates it every year. There were something like 12 ambassadors, including the U.S. ambassador, there to help celebrate. I spoke in the afternoon, and I talked quite a bit about a lot of what's been put out about myself and Sea Light through both Chinese and kind of their proxies here in the Philippines, including one example. And I'll make this my story. And I noticed this last year, and I didn't do anything about it, but I thought it was time to bring it up. There was an article that came out by a guy named Herman Laurel in the Global Times. And the Global Times, of course, is China's state newspaper. So Herman Laurel is a Filipino. He is probably one of the leading voices sort of defending China's position here in the Philippines. And so he wrote an article back about late July 2024. And 4 days later, there was another columnist named Rod Kapunen, another one who does the same thing, who wrote almost an identical article with, I mean, really, really obviously using the exact same phrases as the one in the Global Times 4 days later in the Manila Standard. So it was two different authors, two different newspapers from two different countries with almost identical language throughout a lot of these columns. And so, it was really sort of stunning to sort of look at them side by side and say, well, one of two things is going on here. Either the second guy is just a really bad plagiarist, or there's coordination on messaging, which is, okay, here are all the things that you should say, and they both decided to say them and didn't check with one another before they said them. So anyway, I use that as kind of an example of, you have to be careful and make sure you know where these things are coming from if you're looking at, and also it's when you talk about the gray zone war over the maritime space, so much of that comes down to cognitive warfare. It's a war for your mind, right? And the idea is if we can convince you that your position is unreasonable and you're going to lose anyway, and China's victory is inevitable and the Americans are just outside agitators, we can convince you of all that stuff. Then we win. We don't have to fight. We can win without fighting. And so I just used all of that as kind of a basis to make a somewhat humorous also representation of kind of what it's like to be me. And in fact, the last thing I'll say is I am in Davao right now, and where I have family. And I was here last year. And as you may know, many, the former president of the Philippines, Rodrigo Duterte, is from Davao. And there are many people down here who like him very much. And many of those people also are sort of have their sights set on me because they associate me with the current administration in Manila, although we try to take no position whatsoever on that. Anyway, one of these outlets spotted a Caucasian man, a quote, visibly Caucasian man. I don't know what that means, a visibly Caucasian man wearing a National Bureau of Investigation hat, talking to a Davao City official last year about this same time. And they put it all over social media and said, what is Ray Powell doing down in Davao wearing this National Bureau of Investigation hat? Who let him wear that hat? He shouldn't be allowed to wear that hat. And I'm looking at him, I'm like, okay, I am a white guy, but we don't all look alike, right? I mean, so,
Thank God.
So, yeah, I showed it to my wife, and she's like, "Yeah, I can verify that you are a visibly Caucasian man. You are indeed, yes."
And you don't look good in hats anyway, so.
Yeah, and of course, it always has to say, probable CIA agent Ray Powell down here wearing this NBI hat. So
Yes, right.
I always like to say about these things, when they send me to the CIA spy school, what they tell me is make sure you have a very public podcast and a big social media account and appear in the newspaper and television all the time, because that's what all the good spies do.
Well, and don't forget the hat with the wrong letters.
You gotta have a hat. So great. All right. Actually, our viewers can't see our viewers can't see this right now, but our producer Ian is in fact wearing a hat. So it does not say National Bureau of Investigation, but he is the producer of our show. He does own IEJ Media. He does those fantastic military and geopolitical graphics, one of which was retweeted or reposted, or whatever we say these days, by the owner of said social media network, whose name might rhyme with Musk. You can follow him at Ian Ellis Jones. I think it was one of your ones on Taiwan, wasn't it? Yeah. Oh, sorry. Ian can't talk to us. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and follow. You can certainly follow us on YouTube at youtube.com @IP Podcast. If you go over there, you can talk about, you can look back at episode 82 where we talked about why should we care about a Pacific Defense Pact with Eli Ratner. We talked a lot about the Philippines there as well. You can also email us. Email us at indopacificpodcast@gmail.com. And finally, you should certainly go and visit our sponsor, Bauer Group Asia, at bauergroupasia.com. For the always silent Ian, and although we're going to make him talk eventually, and Jim, and me, and Jim's Birds, we want to say thank you for joining us this time, and we hope you'll join us next time on Why Should We Care About the Indo-Pacific.